Hi everyone! So today we're going to go through some key genetics vocabulary. That way you better understand the assignment that I'm going to ask you to complete this week. Genetics is the study of heredity. Heredity is just passing on genes from one generation to the next generation. So those would be your genes and traits that are passed on from great-grandparents to parents to you. Genes are sections of DNA that codes for proteins to be made. As you see here in the middle of the screen, there's a picture of a karyotype. And if you remember, karyotypes are just images of genes on your chromosomes. DNA is a nucleic acid, that's one of our four major macromolecules, that carries the genetic code. DNA also makes up those genes and chromosomes. Alleles are forms that a gene will take. You can have dominant alleles or you can have recessive alleles. If an organism is homozygous, that means that they have the same alleles for a certain trait. For example, if you can look at the picture right there, those little letters represent different alleles or different forms of genes. So the ones that have a capital R is homozygous because both letters are the same, they're both capital. And the ones that have the lowercase r are homozygous as well because they are the same letter or the same version of a trait. They're the same allele. A heterozygous organism has different alleles for a trait. So notice in the image, your heterozygous organism would have the capital R and the lowercase r. They have two different alleles for that trait. A dominant trait is an allele that is fully expressed in heterozygotes, and that's represented by your capital letter. So that capital R right there is the dominant trait. Can you guess what the dominant trait is? If you said the color red, you'd be right, because the capital R organism is a red flower, and the capital R, lowercase r organisms also a red flower. So that color red is a dominant trait. If you have a capital letter there, that flower is going to be red. A recessive trait is an allele that is not observed in heterozygotes. And that's represented by the lowercase letter. So I'm going to go back to that other slide so you could see that example. Notice here in the middle, the picture, in the middle has the white flower. And the white flower has no red color. That's because it does not have the dominant allele. There's no capital letter gene in that white flower. It just has the lowercase genes. The lowercase r and the lowercase r gives you the color white. But over here, to the left over here, you see this red flower has the capital R, lowercase r. So it has one version of the trait that codes for red color, and it has one version of the trait that codes for the white color. But because that capital R is there, and that capital R is dominant, this flower looks red and not white, even though it has the white allele. An organism needs to have both recessive alleles, or both lowercase letters, if it's going to show the recessive trait. And that's what is said right here, right? Your recessive trait is not observed in heterozygotes, so if you have a capital lowercase, you don't see that trait, and it's represented by your lowercase letter. A genotype would be all of those letters that we were talking about. So the combination of alleles, or letters, that an organism has is its genotype. For example, capital R, that genotype is homozygous dominant because they're the same type of letter, right? They're both capital R's and they're both the capital version, which means they're dominant. The lowercase r right over here, This is homozygous recessive because they're the same type of letter, lowercase, lowercase, and they're lowercase, which is recessive. This in the middle here, capital R, lowercase r, would be a heterozygous genotype because it has two different forms of the alleles, one capital, one lowercase. Your phenotype would be the physical traits or the visible characteristics that are determined by the genes. So our phenotype for those flowers that we were talking about were red and white. Those are the physical traits that those genes code for. That's what you physically see. All right, so that's all the key vocabulary that you need to know and understand in order to have like a basic understanding of genetics and start building on those concepts to understand it better. Have a great day. Bye.